Imagine, imagine strapping into a 600-plus horsepower V8 racing machine.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you are locked tightly into this carbon fiber bucket seat, and you're just surrounded by a full roll cage.
And it's not a comfortable place to be.
No, not at all. The engine isn't just loud. I mean, it literally physically vibrates right through your
Oh,
ribs.
absolutely. It's violent.
Yeah, exactly. You grab the steering wheel, and this vehicle, it just feels heavy and aggressive and incredibly rigid.
Because it's a machine that's purpose-built to just violently wrestle its way around these tight, twisty, really unforgiving street circuits.
Right. It wants to brake super hard and like slide the rear end out and just fight the driver for every single inch of asphalt.
Yeah, it's a vehicle that demands like constant violent input from whoever is in the seat.
But then, you open your eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of a narrow concrete canyon in some city center, you are staring down this massive, sweeping, multi-story, high-banked turn.
Talk about a shift in perspective.
It's wild. You're sitting on the grid of the Daytona Superspeedway, and the track is impossibly wide,
Like you could land a plane on it.
literally.
Hmm.
And the banking is so steep you can barely stand on it. And then someone leans into your window netting and basically says, all right, you have to survive out there for 700 miles.
Which is just a complete atmospheric mismatch, right?
It really is.
Taking a vehicle that's engineered for violent, low-speed directional changes and then forcing it to run at, sustained terminal velocity for hours on end, it's just a recipe for immense mechanical and honestly psychological stress.
I look at it kind of like entering a heavyweight boxer into a marathon,
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
right? Like the athlete has the power. They definitely have the baseline cardio stamina, but the entire biomechanical foundation is just wrong for the environment.
Yeah, a heavyweight boxer is built for those explosive bursts of energy over, 3-minute rounds?
Exactly. So you put them on a 26-mile course, and all that muscle mass just becomes a massive liability.
It's friction. Absolute friction between the tool and the task.
And that mismatch is exactly why we are here today.
Yeah.
Welcome to another deep dive. Today, our mission is to just completely dissect this highly anticipated event called the BMG 700.
And it is an incredibly ambitious project. I mean, the BMG 700 is this massive 3-day virtual endurance event
Yeah.
taking place on the iRacing platform, and they're utilizing those Gen 3 supercars we just talked about right on the Daytona Superspeedway oval.
And for all of you listening, we have an incredibly detailed stack of sources to guide us through this one. We were pulling directly from the official event poster, which, outlines the whole crazy schedule and a very complex payout structure.
The payout structure is fascinating.
It really is. And we're cross-referencing that poster with the raw, unfiltered registration data, like the actual spreadsheet detailing the entire 43-car competitor grid.
Yeah, and when you look at the macro structure of the event rules right alongside the micro data of, who is actually registering to compete, you really start to see the hidden machinery of the race. We are going to explore how these virtual ecosystems just generate their own economies and how, demographic barriers completely dissolve in digital spaces. Plus, just the sheer mental endurance you need to even participate in an event like this.
But before we even get to the drivers who are brave enough to, subject themselves to a 700-mile boxing match, we need to understand the architecture of the event itself.
Right, the foundation.
Yeah. And to do that, we have to look at the sponsor, BMG, the Nick Burling Motor Group.
Because the entire genesis of this 3-day marathon is essentially just a corporate celebration, isn't it?
It really is. The Nick Burling Motor Group is an automotive dealership, and they've recently crossed this huge milestone. They sold their 700th vehicle.
Which is massive for a dealership.
Oh, completely.
Right,
And
yeah.
their motto on the event poster is just fantastic. It says, "Give me a Burl," at burlingmotorgroup.com/Joe.
It's got that very approachable local dealership charm to it.
Right, you can almost picture the balloons tied to the cars out in the lot.
Yeah, the inflatable tube man waving around.
Exactly. But rather than throwing, like, a standard parking lot barbecue or buying a local radio ad to celebrate, they decided to fund this sprawling sim racing event.
And they went far beyond just making a casual lobby with friends, They actually partnered with Inside Lane Productions to host the BMG 700.
And that's a big deal.
It is, because the agreement stipulates that the entire event, literally every single lap of racing action across the whole weekend, except for the qualifying sessions, will be broadcast exclusively on the Inside Lane Productions YouTube channel.
Which automatically implies a really serious level of production value. We are talking professional commentators, multiple camera angles, instant replays, live timing telemetry, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and to justify that kind of production, you really need to attract a highly competitive grid. You have to have serious talent out there.
And they actually managed to lure that talent in with a total prize pool of $1,650.
Now, in the context of, top-tier global esports championships where millions of dollars change hands, okay, that might sound modest.
Sure, yeah.
But within the independent kind of community-driven leagues of sim racing, $1,650 is a highly significant figure. I mean, it is more than enough to attract seasoned veterans who take the simulation incredibly seriously.
Right. So let's break down exactly where that money is coming from.
Yeah.
Because the event poster outlines a payout structure that completely caught me off guard when I first read it.
Oh, it's not straightforward at all.
No. The $1,650 isn't just like some giant novelty check handed to the winner at the end of the 500 miles. It's all chopped up and distributed across multiple sponsors to create what honestly looks like a really volatile microeconomy.
I would say the structure is arguably the most strategic element of the entire event.
How so?
Well, BMG itself provided the bulk of the funding, right? They put up $1,200, and they designated $1,000 of that to be spread across the top 5 finishers of the main race.
Okay, so let's walk through that. First place takes home $350.
Yep.
Second place gets $250. Third gets $200. Fourth takes $120, and fifth place gets $80.
And that specific allocation immediately shifts driver behavior, you see. It tells the competitors that this is not a zero-sum winner-take-all scenario.
Right.
The whole risk-reward calculation changes when you know that simply surviving a 700-mile weekend and, crossing the line in 5th place still gets you an $80 payout.
I mean, I totally follow the logic there.
Yeah.
You obviously want to incentivize the top drivers to push hard, but you don't want them doing anything reckless that takes them out of the money entirely.
Exactly.
But it's what BMG did with their remaining $200 that I really want to question here.
Ah, the specific awards.
Yes, because they split it into 4 $50 specific driver awards. $50 for pole position, $50 for best paint on the car, $50 for the cleanest driver, and $50 for most sportsmanlike.
Those final two, though cleanest driver and most sportsmanlike, those are essentially behavioral modifiers written directly into the rules of the event.
Okay, I have to push back on this. Walk me through that logic.
All right.
Because if I am a hyper-competitive driver, right, and I have my eyes on that $350 first-place prize, why on earth do I care about a $50 sportsmanship award?
Well, you might not if you're the leader.
Right. If I have to bump someone out of the way on the final lap to take the checkered flag and secure the big money, I am going to do it. The math says the win is far more valuable than being perceived as, polite.
Yeah, but you're looking at the math strictly from the perspective of the race leader on the final lap.
Okay, fair.
But consider the math from the perspective of the event organizer and the broadcast team. BMG and Inside Lane Productions, they need a compelling product. They have 43 drivers locked in a high-stress virtual environment for 700 miles.
Right, and over the course of a long weekend like that, fatigue definitely sets in. Missed breaking points just happen.
Exactly. And in sim racing, the absence of actual physical danger sometimes leads to an overabundance of aggression. Yeah, they call it the red mist. It's this psychological state where a driver perceives a slight, gets angry, and just completely abandons all rationality to retaliate.
Oh, wow.
So if a driver running in, say, 20th place gets the red mist on lap 10 of a 500-mile race, and they cause a massive 15-car pileup, the entire event is ruined. The broadcast just becomes a parade of damaged cars driving slowly.
Ah, okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
It isn't really about controlling the race leader at all.
Precisely. By offering a financial incentive for the cleanest driver and most sportsmanlike, BMG is essentially taking out a cheap insurance policy against the mid-pack drivers.
That is so smart.
Right. If a driver realizes early on that they just don't have the pace to crack the top 5, their motivation naturally drops. But if they know there is a $50 bounty just for keeping their nose clean, maintaining their lane, and not retaliating against aggressive moves, it keeps them engaged and cooperative.
It artificially suppresses the red mist.
Yes, exactly.
That completely changes how I view those awards. It's literally just crowd control.
100%.
But, BMG isn't the only sponsor throwing money into this ecosystem.
No, they're not.
Regional Access Network brings another $250 to the prize pool. And their distribution is even more disruptive, in my opinion. They are paying out $75 to the winners of the duels, which are the Saturday qualifying races, and $50 for stage winners during the main Sunday race.
Yeah, and just to quickly round out the whole financial picture, Peugeot Racing Australia contributed $200. But that money is actually ring-fenced. It goes specifically to the overall winner of the Sunday race, but they have to donate it to a charity of their choice.
I love that philanthropic addition. That's great. But the regional access network money, that feels like a grenade thrown into the room to me.
It definitely complicates things.
Let's think about this from a purely strategic standpoint. For everyone listening, you've probably experienced this if you've ever worked on a corporate sales team. The company sets this massive yearly goal, right? A long-term target that requires everyone to work together smoothly for 12 straight months. But then, management introduces a tiny short-term monthly bonus for whoever sells a specific low-value product.
And suddenly, the whole sales team completely ignores the long-term high-value goal to relentlessly chase the short-term payout.
Exactly. And they often end up sabotaging the larger project in the process.
Which is a perfect analogy.
Right, because that is exactly what these $50 stage wins look like to me. If I am running in 6th place, and I know for a fact I can't catch the leaders, but a quote-unquote stage is ending in 2 laps, I am highly motivated to drive like an absolute maniac for those 2 laps, just to cross the line first and grab my $50 from Regional Access Network.
Your assessment is entirely accurate there. It introduces a massive element of volatility.
Right.
Because the driver who is managing their tires, saving their fuel, and really playing the long game for the $350 grand prize, they want stability. They want a predictable flow of traffic.
Naturally.
But the mid-pack driver chasing a stage win suddenly becomes an unpredictable disruptor. Their incentives are completely misaligned with the leaders.
And the friction that causes on the track is just going to be unbelievable to watch.
No, it's going to be chaotic.
But to truly grasp the physical and mental toll this friction will demand, we really have to look at the structure of the weekend itself. Because this isn't just a quick sprint race you boot up on a Sunday afternoon. The 700 miles are spread across a really grueling 3-day schedule.
Yeah, the event runs from July 17th right through the 19th. Friday is dedicated entirely to qualifying. Saturday hosts the duels. And Sunday is the main 500-mile event.
Let's start with Friday, because looking at the poster reveals something that just completely puzzled me at first. The qualifying session is a 12-hour window.
It's an interesting format for sure.
Like, drivers can log on at literally any point during that half-day block, and they are given an out lap and 2 flying laps to set their fastest time. Why not just have a mandatory driver's briefing at, say, 7:00 p.m., put all 43 cars on the track at the exact same time, and let them fight for the fastest lap like a normal traditional motorsport event?
Well, a shared simultaneous session would definitely be the traditional approach. But the 12-hour asynchronous window highlights one of the most sophisticated elements of the iRacing platform, which is its dynamic thermodynamic engine.
Okay, a thermodynamic engine. I mean, we were talking about a video game here.
Yeah, it is far more than a game, I promise you. It's a highly complex physics simulation.
Huh.
In iRacing, the virtual environment is constantly evolving. The servers simulate the angle of the sun, the cloud cover, ambient air temperature, and even humidity.
Wait, really?
Yes, and all of those atmospheric variables directly interact with the virtual asphalt.
I know that in real-world racing, heat is basically the enemy of speed. Like a hot track surface is slippery.
Exactly, correct. When the virtual sunlight hits the virtual track in the sim, the asphalt temperature physically rises in the code. And when the asphalt is hot, the tires lose peak grip.
Makes sense.
Furthermore, warmer ambient air is less dense, meaning the virtual engine takes in less oxygen and produces slightly less horsepower.
Wow, they simulate the air density for the engine.
They absolutely do. Conversely, if a thick layer of virtual clouds rolls in, the track cools down, the air gets denser, the engine makes more power, and the tires generate significantly more mechanical grip.
So are you saying that a driver who logs in at 2:00 p.m. when the virtual sun is just beating down on the track will be fundamentally slower than a driver who logs in at 8 p.m. when the track is cool, regardless of their actual driving skill?
Absolutely. The environmental delta can easily account for several tenths of a second per lap, and in sim racing, a few tenths is an eternity.
That is insane.
Therefore, the 12-hour qualifying window turns Friday into this massive exercise in meteorological patience.
I am just picturing a guy sitting in, like, a $3,000 simulator rig in his living room, right? He has his racing gloves on. He hasn't even touched the steering wheel for 4 hours.
Just waiting.
Yeah. He is just staring at a third monitor, running a virtual weather widget, obsessively watching the barometric pressure and the cloud cover, waiting for the temperature to drop 1 single degree before he actually commits to running his 2 laps.
It is completely a game of digital chicken.
Uh,
I mean, do you set your lap early and just hope the weather worsens for everyone else later in the day? Or do you wait until the final hour of that 12-hour window, hoping for optimal coolness, but risking a server disconnection or, I don't know, a sudden virtual rain shower?
and the psychological pressure of knowing you only have 2 laps to get it right.
Oh, it's immense.
If you wait all day for the perfect weather, you roll out of the pits and you accidentally clip the grass on turn 1, you have completely compromised your entire weekend before the actual racing has even formally begun.
Because your qualifying time from Friday dictates exactly where you start on Saturday. And Saturday is where the real physical exertion begins. The duels.
Right. The poster says the duels are 2 100-mile races. That equates to roughly 40 laps each around the 2.5-mile Daytona Oval.
Yeah, and the main purpose of the duels is to set the final grid order for the main event on Sunday. So the top finishers from the first duel will make up the inside row for Sunday, and the top finishers from the second duel will make up the outside row.
And remember, this is where that regional access network bounty comes in. They're dangling a $75 payout to whoever wins a duel.
Exactly.
So there's actual hard cash on the line here, not just a starting position for Sunday.
Which makes Saturday incredibly dangerous. 100 miles in a Gen 3 supercar at Daytona speeds is a crucible.
Because the cars aren't meant for it.
Right. These cars are heavy and they're aerodynamically blunt. They require constant steering correction just to keep them going in a straight line at 190 miles per hour.
So the fatigue is already building in their shoulders and arms on Saturday?
It is. But the real danger is the temptation of the $75.
The bounty.
Yes. If a driver gets greedy during a Saturday duel, attempts a super high-risk pass to grab the cash, and ends up putting their car into the concrete wall, they don't just lose the duel.
They lose everything.
Essentially, yes. They effectively banish themselves to the very back of the starting grid for the 500-mile race on Sunday.
Man, so you survive the meteorological mind games of Friday. You manage the risk and physical strain of the 100-mile duel on Saturday. You wake up on Sunday, you crack your knuckles, it is time for the main event. A staggering 500-mile endurance race.
The big one.
But the poster includes a rule for Sunday that made me do a double take. It states that the race will feature, quote, stage breaks placed exactly where NASCAR would normally have them.
And that single sentence fundamentally alters the entire DNA of how a Gen 3 supercar is meant to be raced.
We really need to explain this clearly for anyone listening who doesn't spend their weekends reading international motorsport rulebooks. What exactly is a stage break, and why is applying an American NASCAR rule to an Australian supercar race such a massive deal?
Well, in traditional supercar racing, the narrative of the race is dictated by this organic, natural flow. It is essentially an exercise in resource management.
Like fuel and tires.
Exactly. Drivers have to manage their fuel consumption and the degradation of their tires over these long stints. Pit stops happen organically as a direct result of that degradation.
Okay, so if a driver is incredibly smooth with their steering inputs, they save their tires. And because they save their tires, they might naturally build a massive, 20-second lead over the rest of the field after 40 laps.
Right. They earn that gap through superior skill and strategic resource management. But NASCAR-style stages artificially interrupt that organic flow.
How so?
A stage break is a pre-planned, mandatory caution period. The rules dictate that at specific laps, say lap 60 and lap 120, a yellow flag will wave, regardless of what is happening on the track at that moment.
Oh, wow.
The pace car comes out, the racing speeds are reduced, and the entire field is forced to bunch back up together.
Let me make sure I understand the gravity of this, because that sounds crazy. I could spend an hour driving flawlessly, nursing my car, reading the telemetry perfectly, and building a huge 20-second lead.
Yep.
And when the stage break hits, that lead is completely vaporized by rule. The guy who was chewing up his tires in second place, who was miles behind me, is suddenly allowed to pull right up to my rear bumper for the restart.
That is precisely what happens. It artificially erases massive leads to keep the field tightly packed.
I mean, I view it like walking into a casino. You sit down at the blackjack table, you play perfect basic strategy for an hour, and you build up a huge stack of chips.
Okay, I like this analogy.
Right. But the casino has this rule that every hour, a bell rings, and the dealer just sweeps half your chips off the table to make sure the guy next to you, who has been playing terribly, feels like he still has a chance to win. It would be infuriating for the competitor.
It is incredibly frustrating for the dominant driver. But you must remember the core objective of Inside Lane Productions here. They are producing a broadcast.
Right. Entertainment.
Exactly. Watching one car lead by 20 seconds for 5 hours is objectively boring television. Stage breaks force the field back together, which guarantees high-pressure restarts multiple times throughout the 500 miles.
And the restarts are where the chaos usually happens, right? The cars are packed tightly together. They're running 2 or 3 wide, everyone fighting for track position into turn 1 on cold tires.
It basically takes the natural rhythm of a supercar and forces it into the combative, gladiatorial arena of American stock car racing.
And let's not forget the Regional Access Network bounty.
Yeah.
They are paying $50 to the winner of every single one of those stages.
Yes, that is a huge factor.
So not only is your hard-earned lead erased by the yellow flag, but the drivers right behind you are financially incentivized to just dive bomb you right before that flag waves to steal the cash.
The strategic complexities are immense.
I can't even imagine.
Do you push hard to win the stage and take the $50, knowing the ensuing caution flag will erase your lead anyway? Or do you hang back, save your equipment, and just let the aggressive drivers risk crashing each other for the stage win?
So we've established a truly punishing environment here.
To say the least.
A grueling 3-day schedule. This dynamic virtual weather that demands immense patience. 700 total miles of high-speed racing in a heavy, stiff car, punishing stage breaks that erase your hard work, and $1,600 in bounties scattered around the track to tempt people into making really bad decisions.
It's a lot.
Who on earth signs up for this? When we dive into the RAI registration CSV file, the 43 names on this list reveal a grid that is honestly fascinatingly diverse.
We often talk about the democratizing effect of digital spaces. But sim racing is perhaps the most profound example of it.
Because it removes the physical limitations.
Well, physical and financial. Traditional physical motorsports are walled off by massive financial and logistical barriers. To race a real Gen 3 supercar at Daytona, you would need a multi-million-dollar backing, a full engineering team, shipping logistics, and incredible physical conditioning.
But in the digital realm, the barrier to entry is just a decent computer, a steering wheel peripheral, and a reliable internet connection.
Right, and that completely shifts the demographic of who can compete at a high level.
Looking at the ages in this data, it's wild. We have a driver named Ryan Barber logging in from Brisbane. He is 21 years old. I imagine a 21-year-old sim racer has just lightning-fast twitch reaction times, probably honed by thousands of hours of digital physics.
But then look further down the list. On the exact same grid, competing for the exact same prize pool, is Steve Hoppett from Canberra. He is 65 years old.
44 years of life experience separate them.
Exactly.
In a real-world, high G-force racing environment, a 65-year-old body would struggle immensely to keep up with a 21-year-old athlete over 500 miles. The heat, the G-forces, the neck strain.
But on the virtual track, physical stamina is largely replaced by mental stamina.
Okay, clarify that.
Well, the physical toll is still real. Gripping a force feedback steering wheel for hours will absolutely exhaust your shoulders and back, but the primary battleground in sim racing is concentration.
Focus.
Right. A 21-year-old might have the raw reflex advantage to catch a sliding car, but a 65-year-old brings decades of patience, emotional control, and potentially a much deeper understanding of suspension geometry and race strategy.
Which is huge in an endurance race.
Yes. In a 500-mile endurance event where avoiding that red mist we talked about is critical, the wisdom and discipline of an older driver are massive advantages.
It's just an incredible equalizer.
Truly.
And it's not just the age diversity either. The geography of this grid is sprawling. Now, because BMG is the title sponsor, it is understandably heavily Australian.
Right, the local connection.
Yeah, we see drivers representing Adelaide, Hobart, the Central Coast, Melbourne. Like Adam Malone is a 47-year-old from the Central Coast driving a Ford. Colin Bennett is 52, logging in from Hobart in a Chevy. But then you keep scrolling down the spreadsheet and you realize this is a truly global event.
The digital lack of borders allows for a really international grid.
Yeah, we have significant representation from the United States. Aaron Smith, who is 25, is logging in from North Carolina. Wesley J. Fuge, also 25, is from Flat Rock, North Carolina. Sean Signori is a 32-year-old racing out of Punta Gorda, Florida.
And it crosses the Atlantic, too.
It does. Peter Smetana, 28 years old, is representing the Czech NASCAR team all the way from Prague. Lucas Montrezor, also 28, is logging in from Dijon, France.
You know, this geographic dispersion perfectly explains the structure we analyzed earlier.
Walk me through that connection.
Yeah. The 12-hour asynchronous qualifying window on Friday
Oh.
When we first discussed it, we focused heavily on the thermodynamic engine of iRacing, right? Waiting for the track to cool down.
Yeah, playing the weather game.
But practically speaking, the 12-hour window is also a structural requirement to allow a global grid to participate fairly.
Oh, of course. Coordinating a live mandatory session would be a nightmare.
Exactly. When it is 8:00 p.m. on a Friday evening in Adelaide, Australia, it is the middle of the night in Florida, and it's breakfast time in Prague.
You literally can't force the French driver to set their qualifying lap at 3 a.m. on a workday.
Right. The 12-hour window allows Lucas Montresor in France to set his laps after dinner, while Ryan Barber in Brisbane might be setting his laps first thing in the morning. It accommodates the logistical reality of borderless competition.
That makes so much sense. But as I was scanning the names, locations, and ages on this CSV file, one row absolutely stopped me in my tracks.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
I need to read this directly from the data. Age 52. Hometown. Gold Coast. Team. BMG Racing. Car number 700. Driver Nick Burling.
The architect of the event is in the arena.
The guy who owns the dealership, the guy who just sold his 700th car, the guy who funded the $1,650 prize pool. Nick Burling is literally strapping into his own simulator to race against the very people he is paying.
Yes, he is on the grid.
That is wild to me. It introduces such a fascinating interpersonal dynamic to the race.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
How does that work in practice, right?
Yeah. If Nick Burling actually outdrives everyone, navigates the stage breaks, avoids the crashes, and crosses the line first after 500 miles, does he just take the $350 out of his left pocket and put it into his right pocket?
Technically, the rules wouldn't prevent that.
Wow.
Although, the Peugeot Racing Australia mandate says the winner's $200 goes to charity, so we know at least some of the money would leave his hands regardless.
Okay, true.
But honestly, the financial logistics are far less interesting to me than the on-track psychology.
Earlier, you used an analogy about a company softball game. Let's flesh that out a bit.
For sure.
Imagine you are the CEO of a company. You rent out the local baseball field, you buy the uniforms, you put up a giant cash prize for the winning team, and you hire a film crew. And then you step up to the plate to bat against your own employees.
The dilemma for the employee standing on the pitcher's mound is palpable.
It is. Do you throw a blistering fastball and strike the boss out on camera? Or do you quietly lob a soft pitch right down the middle so the boss can hit a home run?
And if we translate that to Daytona.
Right. You are Ryan Barber, the 21-year-old kid from Brisbane. You are running 190 miles per hour heading into turn 3. You look in your virtual mirror, and Nick Burling in car 700 is pulling up alongside you.
Do you give the guy signing the checks an extra foot of breathing room out of respect?
Exactly. Or do you aggressively slam the door on him, forcing him to lift off the throttle just to prove you are the better driver?
Well, in a casual lobby, drivers might give the sponsor a wide berth. But sim racing at this level, for this amount of money, attracts fiercely competitive individuals.
So they won't hold back.
My suspicion is that the moment the green flag waves, Nick Burling ceases to be the dealership owner.
He's just another car.
He becomes just another obstacle on the track. The helmet goes on, even a virtual one, and the sponsorships just fade into the background. If anything, passing the boss might be a point of pride for these drivers.
Well, Nick Burling is going to have a massive fight on his hands anyway, because he isn't just going up against 42 individual privateers trying to make a name for themselves. Looking at the team affiliations and the registration data, there are highly organized, incredibly powerful factions on this grid.
Yes. To understand why these multi-car teams are so dominant, we have to talk about the specific physics of the Daytona Superspeedway and a concept called drafting.
Okay, yeah. You hear the terms drafting and dirty air thrown around in motorsport broadcasts all the time, but let's break them down mechanically for a second. What actually happens to the air when a Gen 3 supercar is doing 190 miles per hour?
A Gen 3 supercar is essentially a flying brick.
A flying brick. I love that.
It has a massive frontal area. As it pushes through the atmosphere at high speed, it displaces a tremendous amount of air. The engine has to work incredibly hard just to overcome that wind resistance.
So the car is basically punching a giant hole in the air.
Exactly. And doing so creates two distinct zones. In front of the car, there is a high-pressure zone of compressed air pushing against the grille. But immediately behind the car, the displaced air cannot rush back in fast enough to fill the void.
Leaving a gap.
Yes. This creates a low-pressure vacuum, a wake of turbulent, tumbling air. This is what we call dirty air.
I always pictured it like slipping behind a massive semi-truck on the highway.
That's a perfect everyday example.
If you pull your car right up behind the trailer, you can physically feel the wind resistance vanish. Your car gets quieter, and you suddenly don't need to press the gas pedal as hard to maintain the same speed because the truck is doing all the work of punching the hole in the air for you.
That is a perfect description of the slipstream or the draft. Now, apply that to Daytona. If a single driver attempts to navigate the 2.5-mile oval alone, their engine is fighting 100% of the aerodynamic drag. They will hit a terminal velocity and just stop accelerating.
They hit a wall, basically.
An aerodynamic wall, yes. But if a second car tucks right underneath their rear bumper, entering that low-pressure vacuum we talked about, the second car experiences almost zero wind resistance.
Because they have less resistance, they have excess engine power available.
Precisely. And they use that excess power to physically push the lead car forward.
Wait, they actually bump into them.
Bumper to bumper. Two cars running like that will always achieve a higher top speed than a single car. A synchronized line of 4 or 5 cars will be faster still.
So at Daytona, a lone wolf driver has mathematically zero chance of winning.
Zero.
If you try to run by yourself, a pack of drafting cars will blow past you like you're standing still. You absolutely have to form an alliance.
Which is why the team affiliations on this registration list are so critical. They arrive at the track with pre-built alliances. Take a team like Simbois, for example.
Yeah, Simbois is bringing a very heavy lineup. They have Gary Wellman from Launceston and Nicholas Walsh and Todd Maxfield, both from Longford. And critically, looking at their car choices in the spreadsheet, they are all driving Fords.
The decision to run a single manufacturer is highly strategic.
Why does that matter?
Because the Ford and the Chevrolet Gen 3 cars in iRacing have slightly different aerodynamic models and engine maps. By putting all 3 drivers in Fords, Simbois ensures their cars behave identically in the draft.
Ah, harmony.
Right. They can share suspension setup data flawlessly. They can spend weeks in private practice servers learning exactly how much throttle input is required to bump draft each other without causing a crash.
So you can expect those 3 Simbois Fords to be glued together nose to tail for the entire 500 miles, essentially dictating the pace of the race.
Very likely, yes.
But then I look at a team like SRM, and their strategy is completely different, which I find fascinating.
SRM's a great case study.
Right, they have a massive presence on this grid. They have Ruben Phelps from Dunedin and Matthew Raymond from Adelaide, both driving Chevrolets. Lachlan Urquijo from Wandin North is also in a Chevy. But then they have Sean Signori, the driver from Florida we mentioned earlier, running a Ford for SRM.
That is a much more sophisticated intelligence-gathering approach.
How so?
By fielding both manufacturers, SRM is sacrificing perfect aerodynamic synergy for a broader understanding of the track.
How does having a mixed fleet actually help them?
They gather telemetry from both sides of the aisle. They can analyze the data and realize, for instance, that the Ford has slightly better top-end speed on the back straight, but maybe the Chevy is more stable when it hits the turbulent, dirty air in the high-banked corners.
Oh, they know exactly what their enemies are capable of because they have the enemy's equipment in their own garage.
Precisely. They can use Sean Signor's Ford to test the weaknesses of the Simbois Fords.
That is absolutely brilliant.
It is. You also have these really intriguing micro-factions on the grid. Look at Rogue Sim Sports.
Let me find them.
Okay, yes.
They are fielding Craig Raffy and Tony Raffy, both from Adelaide, both in Chevrolets.
Looking at the ages 38 and 64, that has to be a father-son duo, right?
It has to be. And running a super speedway race with your family member adds an entirely different layer of stress.
Oh, without a doubt.
Trust is the absolute currency of Daytona. If the lead driver in a draft twitches the steering wheel by half an inch or lifts off the throttle for a fraction of a second without warning the trailing driver, the trailing car will smash into them at 190 miles per hour and trigger a massive wreck.
It requires total faith in the person ahead of you.
Right. And I imagine wrecking your dad out of a 500-mile race makes for a very tense Thanksgiving dinner.
Well, trust is everything. Established teams like Simbois, SRM, or the Raffis have built that trust over hundreds of hours on voice comms.
Which puts the solo guys at a huge disadvantage.
A massive disadvantage. The privateers, the solo entries from France or the Czech Republic, they're going to have to negotiate temporary alliances with complete strangers on the fly via the in-game radio, hoping the driver they tuck in behind knows what they're doing.
Okay, so we have laid all the variables out on the table here. We understand the unnatural environment of Gen 3 cars at Daytona. We know about the $1,650 microeconomy with its behavioral modifiers and disruptive stage bonuses.
We understand the thermodynamic challenges of the 12-hour qualifying window on Friday.
Yes, we've mapped out the 65-year-olds racing the 21-year-olds, the boss on the track, and the sheer physics of drafting. So let's put it all together now.
The big question.
Let's synthesize this into an ultimate weekend strategy.
Yeah.
How do you actually survive and win the BMG 700?
To win this event, a driver must execute a multi-phase master plan that balances extreme risk mitigation with sudden opportunistic aggression. It requires near-perfect emotional control.
Okay, walk me through the playbook step by step. It is Friday morning. The 12-hour qualifying window just opened.
On Friday, your mantra is absolute patience. You do not rush.
Okay.
You monitor the iRacing server telemetry constantly. You are looking for a moment when the virtual cloud cover drops the track temperature to its absolute lowest point. You load into the car and you execute 2 flawless, smooth, conservative laps.
I'm going to stop you right there, conservative. There's a $50 reward from BMG specifically for pole position. Why wouldn't you push the car to its absolute ragged edge to grab that cash and the glory of starting first?
Because the risk profile is unacceptable.
Really?
Yes. If you push the car to 100% of its capability, the margin for error shrinks to 0. A locked brake or a slide into the wall means your qualifying time is ruined and you will start Saturday at the back of the pack. Your goal on Friday isn't to be the fastest. It is to secure a safe top 10 starting position for Saturday. The $50 just isn't worth jeopardizing the entire weekend.
Okay, that makes sense. Protect the equipment at all costs. So you run a smooth lap, so you qualify 8th. You wake up on Saturday for the duels.
In the 100-mile duel, your objective shifts to pure survival and relationship building.
But wait, there is a $75 bounty from Regional Access Network for winning a duel. You were telling me to ignore the money again.
It is a trap. It's designed to punish short-sighted drivers.
A trap.
$75 is a nice payout, sure, but the cost of fighting for it is immense. In a 100-mile sprint, the aggressive drivers will be taking massive risks. Let them.
So you just back off.
Yes. If you get caught up in their desperation and sustain heavy suspension damage, you have ruined your grid spot for the main event. On Saturday, you find a drafting partner you trust, you lock into line, you maintain your track position within the top 10, and you bring the car home without a single scratch.
So you survive the Friday weather game. You avoid the Saturday trap. The car is pristine. You log in on Sunday for the 500-mile marathon.
And Sunday is where the NASCAR-style stages completely dictate the pace of the race.
Right, the resets.
We established earlier that organic fuel-saving strategies will be neutralized by the mandatory caution flags. Therefore, the ultimate strategy is one of high-speed hibernation.
High-speed hibernation. Explain that.
You find your team or your trusted alliance from Saturday, you form a drafting line, and you run at 80% of your mental capacity just to save energy.
You're just coasting, essentially.
You use the draft to save fuel and minimize wear on the engine. You actively allow the mid-pack disruptors to fight it out for those $50 stage wins.
Let them have the small change.
Exactly. You let them weave through traffic, wear out their tires, and inevitably cause accidents. You just hover safely in the top 10, carefully nurturing your metrics for the cleanest driver award, letting the race come to you.
You essentially put the car on autopilot, physically and mentally, to endure the distance.
You endure the fatigue in your shoulders, you manage your hydration, and you maintain focus, and you wait until there are exactly 20 laps remaining in the 500 miles.
And then?
That is when hibernation ends. That is when you abandon the fuel saving, leverage the pristine car you have protected all weekend, and unleash your aggression for the $350 grand prize.
Man, that sounds like a beautiful, logical plan on a whiteboard. But let's put you in the hot seat to test that logic.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Let's say it is lap 120 of the Sunday race. You have executed the high-speed hibernation strategy perfectly. You are running in second place, tucked right underneath the rear wing of your teammate.
Okay, a good spot to be in.
You are a perfect two-car aerodynamic bullet pulling away from the pack. But a stage break is coming up in exactly 2 laps, and that stage break is worth a $50 payout.
Ah, the betrayal scenario.
Yes, you are in the draft. Do you betray the alliance? Do you pull out of line, pass your teammate who implicitly trusts you not to do exactly that, just to snatch the $50?
Knowing full well that breaking the draft will slow both of us down.
Exactly. It allows the hostile pack behind you to catch up and completely shatters the trust you need for the final 50 laps. Or do you suppress your ego, stay in line, and let your teammate take the cash for the greater good of the team?
That exact scenario is the psychological friction this entire event is engineered to create.
It's agonizing.
The mathematically correct whiteboard answer is to stay in line. The long-term prize pool is richer, and maintaining a willing drafting partner is statistically necessary to win at Daytona. But humans aren't algorithms.
No. In the moment, logic completely goes out the window.
When you have been staring at a monitor for 3 hours, your adrenaline is spiking, the engine audio is deafening, and a $50 bounty is dangling just inches in front of your bumper.
Yeah,
Rationality often surrenders to instinct.
right.
It only takes a split-second decision to pull out of line and betray the plan.
It just underscores the immense mental stamina required to compete in this event. It is not just about physical reflexes or knowing when to shift gears. The BMG 700 is a 3-day exercise in extreme risk management, emotional suppression, and high-speed chess.
Really are.
You are constantly calculating risk versus reward, trust versus betrayal, short-term greed versus long-term glory, all while hurtling toward a concrete wall at 190 miles per hour.
It is exhausting to analyze from the outside. The cognitive load on the drivers inside those simulators will be monumental.
It is an absolute masterpiece of event design. To recap the sheer scale of what we have unpacked today, the Nick Burling Motor Group took a simple dealership milestone selling 700 cars and transformed it into a sprawling global gauntlet.
They really did.
They brought 43 diverse drivers, ranging from 21-year-old phenoms to 65-year-old veterans, to the virtual Daytona Superspeedway. They constructed a $1,650 microeconomy that deliberately manipulates driver behavior, demanding cleanliness while simultaneously tempting them with disruptive stage bounties and charity payouts.
It's brilliant.
And they scheduled it across 3 punishing days of dynamic weather and aerodynamic warfare, all to be broadcast for the world by Inside Lane Productions.
And as we step back from the raw CSV data and the tactical theories, I want you to consider the broader philosophical implications of what an event like the BMG 700 actually represents.
I'm intrigued.
Look at the sheer heavy infrastructure we have just detailed. Cash payouts distributed across multiple corporate sponsors, charitable donations, structured, multi-day, time zone spanning qualifying sessions,
Yep.
global demographic participation, intricate multi-car team strategies balancing fluid dynamics and aerodynamics.
It is literally a one-to-one scale replica of a professional, real-world racing series.
It perfectly mirrors the logistical, financial, and strategic complexities of real-world motorsports, and it leads to a very profound question that the sim racing community is constantly grappling with.
Which is?
At what point does the psychological pressure on these drivers become entirely indistinguishable from physical reality?
Wow. That is a wild thought.
When a driver is sweating in their rig on a Sunday afternoon, their heart rate elevated to 150 beats per minute, knowing that a single twitch of their wrist will cost them their hard-earned reputation, shatter their team's trust, and forfeit tangible financial reward. Does their brain actually know the difference between a physical car and a digital one?
I mean, when you put it like that, probably not.
The stakes are real, the money is real, the fatigue is absolutely real.
So is the virtual world just a simulation anymore when the sweat, the adrenaline, the complex team betrayals, and the economy are completely undeniably real? The BMG 700 proves that the human drama translates perfectly through the screen.
It is definitely something to keep in mind the next time you watch a virtual race broadcast. The vehicles might be rendered in pixels, and the asphalt might be a mathematical equation, but the human pressure is as authentic as anything you will find in the physical world.
It absolutely is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the BMG 700. It has been an incredible journey unpacking the layers, the economics, and the psychology of this event. Remember to keep questioning the structures and systems in the world around you, whether they are built out of concrete or constructed from code. We will see you next time.